Okay, this calls to order the meeting of the Elections Commission. Today is Wednesday, October 19, 2016. The time is 6:05 p.m. I'm sorry I'm late. I was waiting downstairs to get a key, only to find out that the door was unlocked when I got here. First item is the roll call agenda. Commissioner Jung's absence is excused. Commissioner Yu?
Here.
Commissioner Savant?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Rowe? Commissioner Paris?
Here.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Here.
And Commissioner Jadonic?
Here.
Item 2, general public comment on any item not otherwise on the agenda.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brent Turner with California Association of Voting Officials. I just wanted to make a note that to you that on a couple things. One, I think we just saw the passage of SB 450, and I don't know if everybody's paid attention to that, but that is calling for the counties to make the decision on the closing of precincts and moving more toward a vote center model. There have been issues raised regarding that particular direction, and we wanted to encourage you to delve further into it. Some of our questions are concerning who's going to be making the decisions. We understand it's going to be coming from the county level, but who's going to make the decisions as to what poll sites are closed? Obviously, the concern is that economically challenged communities might be disenfranchised and forced to either take buses or travel great distances to participate. And so for that, we'd like to perhaps bring that up at a future meeting. Also, just wanted to mention, in case anybody was noticing President Obama's statements regarding that there is all is well with the election systems. I think we probably all know to take that with a grain of salt. Our work here moving toward open source systems is again in keeping with the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security. I will be traveling back to the Pell Center's event in Rhode Island and participating as a panelist with some experts, and I will be reporting back to you after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on item 2? Seeing none, we'll move to item 3, approval of the minutes for the September 21st, 2016 meeting. Can we have a motion?
I move to approve the draft minutes.
Second.
We'll take Jordanic's, Commissioner Donaldson seconding that. Do we have any commissioner comment on minutes? Any public comment? We will take a vote. Commissioner Yu?
Yes.
Commissioner Savant?
Yes.
I vote yes. Commissioner Paris?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jadonic?
Yes.
The vote is unanimous to approve. Item 4, Commissioners' reports.
I have a couple things to say. So for starters, the NBC Bay Area News segment on open source voting aired twice, like I mentioned at the last meeting. It was a very good segment. I thought it was pretty brief. It was 5 minutes long, and it featured brief interviews with I think 4 people: Brent Turner, Secretary of State Alex Padilla, John Sebas from OSET, and also myself. There was a very nice quote from Secretary of State Padilla. He said that open source is the ultimate in transparency and accountability for all. I thought that was the most positive statement he's made in open source voting so far that I'm aware of. And there's also a link to that online. I can send that out later this week. And then secondly, there was a nice op-ed I saw in the Chronicle. This is on the October 13th issue that I just learned about a couple of days ago. And this was an op-ed that was written also by John Sebas of OSET, supporting open source voting and encouraging the California and San Francisco to fund the project. That's all. Thank you.
Can you tell me how to spell Sebas?
Sure, SEBES.
Any,
No, I'll send that out as well.
thank you. Any other commissioner reports?
Well, I have begun work on down in San Mateo County, not exactly relevant here, but it is interesting having a county that actually uses electronic voting machines. Definitely gives a different perspective. But anywho, I also visited the open house that San Francisco Elections held and got to tour the facilities, which is really nice. We should do that for all the commissioners. It was very pleasant. I also am proud to say I got all but one question wrong on Spin the Wheel and win a prize, which I don't think is so great, but they were quite impressed. I got 2 magnets out of that. Lastly, I also read your report for the annual report. Props. It was actually very well done, very detailed, and I was very impressed by the report of what we did last year. So kudos to Commissioner Giordani. He's done an excellent job on the annual report. Lastly, with the passage of SB 50, I also had quite a few questions about what we will be doing with that when it said we can opt in. Is that for the director, for the commission, for the board, and also some legal questions about how much room we could actually play with that. That'll probably need Josh's opinion for. So that will probably be an agenda for the future, but maybe when we have time for it, sooner rather than later.
Any other commissioner reports? Public comment?
Yes, regarding Commissioner Giordano's reference to OSET in both the NBC piece and with the op-ed, we are noting that some groups that are not focused on general public license for open source systems are now coming forward into the space with the recent allocation of monies. We did want to note that I think that they did tender a figure for a system as they are a vendor, and that system was projected, I believe, to be $18 million, whereas the system that was tendered by the scientific open source community came in at $6 million, I believe. So there was a great disparity there, and we're also, again, wanting to highlight the difference between general public license systems and systems that will be coming forward for your perusal with what we call a nouveau license. There are intricacies involved here as the business community has figured out that open source is now gaining traction, so they will be coming forward en masse, and we are at CAVO, part of our task is to vet systems. In speaking with the open source initiative, we received direction from them that even though OSET qualifies technically as an open source license, one should take a look into their backgrounds to see if they've been involved in the open source community previous to their current project, and with OSET they have not been. So they come out of the Silicon Valley proprietary community. Thank you.
Any other public comment on item 4? Moving to item 5, the director's report. And I'll start off with my usual question, which is to ask whether you have any updates or new information since you provided the written report.
No, I mean, it's busy. It's very busy. So we're right now we're ahead of November 2008 as far as activities that we're seeing. We've increased the number of folks on the phone bank this past week. We have over 20 people now. We'll have a second and actually a third phone bank on election day operating. We've issued over 306,000 unique vote by mail ballots, which means they're not replacement ballots or second ballots, which is the most. Right now, I think we're at 62% vote by mail ballot. 62% of registered voters have requested ballots by mail. Yeah, it's just, so it's in the, we have a lot of capacity at the voting center in City Hall, so there hasn't been any lines, but we've had over 1,000 people come to City Hall and vote. Every day, towards the end of the day, it's getting a little bit busier, and that's gonna build out. Eventually, the entire day is gonna be that way. You guys weren't here in 2008, but we actually had lines wrapping around City Hall for people to get in to vote inside the voting center. People waiting 2.5 hours. But it wasn't an issue actually, because people wanted to vote. It was rain like hell one day too. But we've anticipated that as much as we can. We've got plans in place if we see that kind of turnout at City Hall. We're still looking for poll workers. We have enough poll workers to stage the polling places. Just we're still trying to get some, like 200 poll workers, because not all poll workers want to go to a certain area of town, like District 2 for instance. It's really hard to get poll workers if they go to District 2, so we're still looking for some poll workers there, which is the northern part of the city by the Marine District. Standby poll workers too. We're looking for some standby poll workers, but we have enough poll workers to conduct the election. Now it's just trying to get folks to actually want to go to a certain district and to be a standby. Everything's in place. We're just moving through our schedule. The fat ballots are slowing things down a bit because voters are folding the ballots all as one unit instead of stacking them individually, the cards. So we issued a video on Friday in the press release. We'll pound on that a lot more actually as we go forward. That's slowing the process down. Yeah, but I mean, right now everything we're looking at November 2008 election turnout, which was 72%, which was the most people that were voting in San Francisco's history was in 2008, and we're looking at that again right now with what we're seeing. I'm not promising that's the case, but that's what we're seeing as far as activity is concerned. The number of calls, and then the folks coming into the voting center at City Hall. But we're current on the emails, we're current on calls coming to the department. There's no line at this voting center, there's no line to talk to someone at the front counter. Yeah, there's no shortage of resources. We're not pinched anywhere. We're not waiting for something to show up. The equipment's operating as expected. Training's gone as we expected. So we're still, of course, making plans as making adjustments as we go forward, because until you see this kind of volume, you really can't expect how it's going to affect your process until you see it. So even though we plan, we're still making adjustments so that it'll continue to go through the entire process. But yeah, right now the voting equipment testing will complete this week, probably on Thursday or Friday. The optical scans done. We're now doing the touchscreen units. And poll worker classes have been going on for a month. We'll end up with the clerks this weekend. We'll roll into the inspectors next week, and yeah, I mean, things are happening. So
I have some questions. Most of these are pretty minor. I'm just kind of off your report. One of the things I'm interested in is the number of like percentage of inspectors that returned from the previous. Do you have an idea what that was?
No, look, usually it's around 72, 75%, but I don't know what it's this way.
And one of the things you mentioned in the report is the inmate voter program. And can you say a little bit about that? It's not something I knew about before. Is that a state program or San Francisco or federal?
It's local.
Local?
So every election we work with the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office has a unit called Prisoner Legal Services. And Prisoner Legal Services has personnel actually in the jails. I actually worked with them a bit. I taught computer applications in jails for a while through Prisoner Legal Services. So we work with those folks who have direct contact with the inmates, and the Prisoner Legal Services provides the applications to the inmates, collects the applications for vote-by-mail ballots, registers them as well, provides the registration cards and gets them to us. Then we also use Prisoner Legal Services to deliver the ballots to the inmates, and then we collaborate with them to get the ballots back from the inmates. So it's something that happens every election. It's not a statewide program. I don't think every county has a prisoner legal services unit or program, and if they do, there's not one as active as what we're seeing in San Francisco. We actually have a very good process here with the prisoner legal services and with the inmates and getting registration cards and ballots and getting them back from the inmates. So even in the jails, there's a high amount of activity for this election compared to other elections.
And around election security, it's a topic that's been in the news a lot, and some of the listservs I'm on, they've mentioned, I've heard kind of through the grapevine that there are different, like the federal level is reaching out to the states and counties on what to do around election security. And I was wondering, have any of these groups contacted San Francisco about kind of stepping up security or anything around elections, or giving you guidelines or anything like that?
Yeah, there's been guidance issued, not specifically to San Francisco, but we've received it as a jurisdiction. And then also from the FBI, for instance, and also from Homeland Security. Homeland Security has held conference calls, so we've been on those. Then also through the Department of Technology, we've been scanning the public-facing applications and programs to determine if there's vulnerabilities there, if someone can hack into the department's network. There's been no public-facing vulnerabilities shown in those scans. The voting system in San Francisco never is on the internet, so there's no way for someone actually to hack in using the internet into the voting system. Same thing with the registration database. From my perspective, at least, maybe you might have a different one. What started a lot of the media stories about election security were the concerns or allegations that in Illinois and Arizona that the registration databases were hacked into. So I don't know how they're set. I can't compare San Francisco to Illinois and Arizona. I don't know how they're set up compared to here or just any county in California. But our tables, our system's not connected to the internet. The tables that are public facing don't hold confidential information tied to any voter. We don't collect confidential information on non-secure sites on the internet. So then in the voting system, when it goes out, there's seals and everything. And everything is accounted for. The poll workers' training is if the seals are broken, if the serial numbers don't match what's on their log sheet, or to call the department. And I'm the one that makes the decision if we continue with that machine or if we replace the seal or have it. So we'll have the scans on an ongoing basis through the election, at least, probably even beyond that.
Was there anything new that the department's doing because of the advice you got, or is it just confirming what we were already doing?
In some instances, we've upgraded some software versions, probably faster than we would have normally. But those weren't. It was nothing that was public facing. That was an old version. So it was mostly stuff that we're using internally. Even still, we thought to upgrade where we could. But no. So no, it hasn't. We haven't changed our process at any point at this time.
Mm-hmm. Another thing you mentioned around security is there are like training workshops around viruses and phishing and things. Is that something that you led within your own staff, or did you bring in outside help on that?
Well,
or somewhere else in the city.
Yeah, with DT provided information regarding phishing emails specifically, and then also Homeland Security provides some information. And then I didn't lead it because I asked our IT manager actually to inform the department, first the managers, and then have the managers inform all the personnel, and then have all the managers confirm that they've had those conversations with personnel in the department and the divisions, so that they were made aware of how to react if they saw something on their email that wasn't what they expected. And then also so that the people understood the potential damage that could be done if a virus were introduced through an email, an attachment.
And another thing in the report, you mentioned that you've been having the phone lines open over the weekends beyond business hours. And I was wondering, have you also considered opening the lines past business hours on weekdays, or?
Not yet, no. And it slows down. And,
Oh, it does.
yeah, and this will be the first weekend we have phones. We haven't in the past weekends. And we'll expand out a bit, but it slows down after 5.
Just a few more, like, on the HTML version of the VIP, has that been getting easier each time, or is it, has it changed much in the formatting from the previous elections?
It's formatting's, I mean, what do you mean?
I think, like, one of the first times you did it, I think you said that there was maybe certain sections that you were gonna do later, and, or maybe not all of it or something. I just got the impression that it's,
We post the PDF first, and then we followed up with the XML and HTML. That's how we've been doing it. I don't specifically recall. I don't remember.
Let's see. Oh, and someone asked me about the observer panel. Do you know if it's too late for someone to join that panel?
No, they can join.
Okay. And, okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Yes, Director Ronza, just was wondering if you could give a little more background. What happened with the missing information from the VIP? Those cards that how that got missed?
I think I explained it in the email. Do you have a question beyond that?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I read it here. But no, I'll go back and read the email. But just for the public, if you could just maybe mention how it got missed out.
Let me just add to that, if I may, before you start. As we do have an email that we received from Eric J., who works on the Jane Kim campaign about this issue, and he asked some questions. I responded to him and invited him. I didn't get the email to Jay, but I responded to him and invited him to come today, and he wasn't able to. He has another meeting, but he did send me an email, which I forwarded just within the last probably hour or hour and a half to the commission, where he's asking additional questions, and I do think a lot of questions were answered in your email, but that isn't part of the public, and I do think it's kind of an important issue, you know, for the public. As I understand it, what happened was there was under law, correct me if I get any of this wrong, but I'm going to try to summarize it and set the stage. Under the law, there is supposed to be a statement in the voter information pamphlet of the what's the word, not recommendations,
Endorsements.
the endorsements, of course, of the parties who request it. And as I understand it, the Republican Party got theirs in through the normal channels by the deadline, and the Democratic Party apparently sounds like they got theirs in, but through a channel that wasn't what you typically receive it. It sort of got overlooked, or it was in by the deadline, but it didn't go into a mailbox where you saw it and realized that it was supposed to go into the voter information pamphlet. Am I basically right so far? Okay, and then when that came to your attention, it sounds like you corrected it by sending out sort of a supplemental mailer to everybody who had gotten the VIP that listed the Republican Party endorsements and the Democratic Party endorsements. And that included endorsement for one candidate for state senate. And the other candidate of that state senate has raised some complaints that sort of drew attention to an endorsement, sort of sounded like a special endorsement by the Elections Commission. So that's what I understand the issue to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, and then if you can sort of comment on a little bit about how this happened and what the thought process, has it ever happened before, and what the thought process was and how you addressed it, and if there are any lessons learned. And you know, I certainly do find it, I can understand the position as being raised by Mr. J here. I can understand why he finds that troubling. I don't know what, it would have been troubling either way once the voter information pamphlet went out, but I think it does deserve some discussion.
So each political party, according to the Elections Code, can have what's called endorsements published in the jurisdiction's voter information pamphlet. It has to come by a certain date, E83, generally the date's in the email. Every election, and the endorsements are only for voter nominated offices, so not all the offices on the ballot would be available for endorsement. So in this particular case, Eric J. is the campaign manager for Jane Kim. And so Eric J. is alleging that the department sent out a slate mailer in favor of Jane Kim because we didn't see an email that was sent to the general email address to the department, rather than to the publications manager or to my attention or the campaign services manager regarding endorsements from the state Democratic Party. So once we found out, when I found out from the state Democratic Party that we had received an email, we finally found it, we looked for it. We realized that by law we're supposed to include these endorsements in the voter information pamphlet. So we actually got a sample of a mailer from Sacramento County that was used in a similar situation in 2014. And what Sacramento did was include all the endorsements that were to be imprinted in the voter guide. That's what we did. So we actually try to limit any attention drawn to any particular parties or candidates by including all the endorsements that were printed. So we didn't want to send the endorsement, three revisions to a page in the voter guide separately, different from when people were receiving the voter guide. So once we found out, or I found out that the endorsements had come to us before the deadline, even though it was after the deadline, the books were already in the mail. The books were already dropping on people's mailboxes. So I decided to get the mailers out as quickly as we could, so they would arrive in time near to when people were receiving the voter information pamphlets. We don't receive endorsements from the parties every election. For instance, we received endorsements from the Republican Party this election, but we didn't receive them for the June election. So as I noted in the email, it's not like we know they're missing each election because they're not consistently provided. What Eric J's asserting also is that the department had communications with the San Francisco Democratic Party, but the endorsements are actually provided by the state Democratic Party, the California Democratic Party. So there's no reason for the local party organization to contact us regarding to give us endorsements. We would never look for endorsements from the local party. So he also dropped a public records request on us, asking for any records that that were in relation to our conversations or work or whatever with the local Democratic Party, and there is none because we didn't. All our conversations were with the California Democratic Party. So notices are what we do. One year we had a few years ago, I think 2012, 2014, I can't remember. The mail house printed the polling place address. They printed one polling place address that went on books that went to 110,000 voters. So 110,000 people got the same polling place address on the back cover of the voter guide. We sent notices out as fast as we could.
When did you say that was?
12 or 14, I can't remember. One election, the stub on the ballots, on the primaries, the print vendor printed the American Independent Party on the stubs, no matter what the party was. We sent notices for that. So, we send notices at polling places change. We send notices for everything that goes on. We send notices for poll workers. So it's not anything out of the ordinary of our process. It's what we do. We had an obligation to provide the information. We did receive it by the deadline. It did come in a way that certainly I would have preferred, but we did receive it, so we responded. We provided the information to the voters. Lessons learned going forward, we'll prescribe a method for the campaigns to provide the information to us. We'll give them notice that we're expecting it by E83 and for it to be delivered in a certain way. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I can understand the assertions being made, but nothing was done in any way to favor a campaign or a candidate. That's also not how we do things. So, however someone wants to spin it, it's that's the choice, but wasn't a basis for the actions to get this matter out. So.
Can I ask a question? And part of this is because I'm taking the notes so I can prepare the minutes. But I think you said lessons learned. One would be to prescribe a method for the campaigns to provide the endorsements. Or did you mean the state party?
Right.
Okay.
How will you communicate those instructions? Just send it to them, or do a handbook online,
No, we'll contact their office, you know, directly, and usually you have a contact that you can reach and you can rely on for, like, not always. But in the lease, we'll be making it known, we'll be sending not just one bit of information out, but a couple. And then we'll also, be making phone calls on E83 if we don't have something, you know, which I think is really beyond, what we ought to be doing, but I understand the situation, so, you know.
I think I can understand that impulse, but I think that might raise some questions too. If they missed their deadline because of their own actions and you're calling them to say, hey, you've got another 24 hours to do it, that could be seen as impartial as well. So I don't know what the answer is on that, but in terms of calling them on E83, I would encourage you to give some further thought to that and talk with maybe the city attorney's office, because I could see how a campaign just like Mr. J's campaign could complain if somebody had almost missed a deadline and they only remembered it because you called them. So I think we need to make sure that the cure doesn't create similar problems in another manner.
That being said, I think you did make the right decision by having the full endorsement slate, because had it just been the one candidate, then I'm sure you would have gotten even a bigger fuss. So that was a smart move on your part.
Thank you.
One question I have is, I imagine there are probably many like errors of different levels, you know, in the voter information pamphlet, because it's over 300 pages long, you know, this election. Like, how do you decide, like, where do you draw the line and when a correction should be sent out? Like, you know, for example, if it's a typo, you probably wouldn't send me a lot of correction, but do you just, is it on a case-by-case basis, or
Right.
correct everything?
Right. If there's a typo, the elections code requires that we print notices in the newspaper by a certain day to indicate that there's typos in the voter guide. So that's already prescribed in the elections code. So in this instance, something was missing that was required by law, and so we decided to put the notice out.
I had a few questions. When you said in the years past you've had lines at City Hall, is that during early voting hours or is that on election day?
No, during the voting, before election day.
Cool. Were those lines, I'm not really worried about the length of the lines, but more or less how quickly they moved through. Do you know approximately how long a voter had to wait?
Yeah, in 2008, around 2.5 hours.
Have we been able to maybe add some more people to kind of shrink that down a little bit?
Right, so we've tripled the capacity of the voting center.
There you go. One other thing, and this is more or less for the city attorney, the complaint we've received recently regarding the feet in the voting center, which I did go down and the complaint did say the left foot was blue and the right foot is red, and that is not the case. I do not think it is a case of electioneering. However, I want the city attorney's opinion on that.
It is not.
Thank you.
The
Just
floor
want
is
that for
white,
record.
the American flag has red, white, and blue. I think it's perfectly reasonable to select the other two colors of the flag. And white footprints would have been no assistance on a white floor.
Yes, I also wanted to see the color of the floor, and for the record, the color of the floor is much more close to white than it is blue or red. But I just wanted the record to show that. One other thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
before we move on? Did you say that in fact it's not the left is blue and the red is right? It's the opposite?
Yes, the complaint said that the blue feet, or the left foot was blue and the right foot was red, indicating, you know, right for Republican leaning, left for Democratic leaning. That's not the case.
It's the
Each
opposite.
set of feet is a blue feet, both left and right, and then red feet, left and right. So
Oh.
it is not showing a color preference to the left or the right foot, as was alleged. I did want to ask more about the prisoner voting program. I thought in the state of California you couldn't vote in prison, but I mean, if this program is legal and able to enfranchise voters, I'm very happy about that. Could you give us any kind of details about what kind of restriction? Is this only for people in the San Francisco County prison, or could you give me more details?
It's people in the county jail.
County jail, right? Okay. So these are not like convicted felons, these are just, it's legal.
Yeah.
Okay. Good, just checking. One other question. So you did make the, you did say that if equipment fails, you are the one to decide if it actually needs to be replaced or not. I do know that because San Francisco doesn't use electronic voting equipment, that doesn't happen quite as often. But could you kind of give me an idea of how often equipment fails on election day? That you actually need to like switch it out?
What I said was when the seals are broken on the equipment, or the seals don't match the log sheet that the poll workers have, that's, by law, it's my decision. I'm obligated to make the decision to replace that equipment or not. As far as replacing equipment, it does happen, it's a small percentage depending on numerous variables, but I don't have a percentage, it's very small.
Oh, and one last question regarding the program that the election software runs on. The software you said is not connected to the internet, but the actual software, is it Mac, is it PC, is it Windows 2000, is it Vista?
It's Windows based.
Windows based. Do you know what type?
No.
The only reason I ask is just, is it still a software that is supported? Only because if it ever is connected to anything, not necessarily the internet, but even other computers, if it is supported, is it updated with like the latest virus, antivirus software?
I don't know. I would assume so, but I don't control the virus software. I'm not the person that does it, so I don't know.
Any other commissioner comments? I will report that I did receive the security plan for the election, which thank you to Deputy City White for forwarding that to me and reminding me that I needed to forward it on to the Board of Supervisors, which I did today or possibly yesterday. I will send a copy of that all out to the Elections Commission when I get back, hopefully tomorrow. Any other commissioner comment? Public comment? Oh, I'm sorry.
Related to that, do you know if the employee waiver has gone to the board yet?
It did, I believe, Deputy City Attorney White, you actually forwarded that, didn't you?
To Supervisor Breed's aid, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other commissioner comment? Any public comment on item 5, Director's Report? Moving on to item 6, discussion and possible action regarding the Commission President's 2015 Annual Report. Commissioner Paris already commented that it was a very impressive report, I agree. Any other commissioner comment on the annual report?
I have a question for Commissioner Strong. So, yes, I thought it was very good, very well organized, very well written. It had, the appendices were quite thorough. I didn't go back and check, so I think that it included everything but minutes and agendas. Is that pretty much the case? And election plans, I guess.
Well, there's quite a bit I didn't include from all the documentation from that year, but I pretty much, so there are no agendas or minutes, or I think really what I focused on were the resolutions that we passed. It was the open source voting and also the supervisors. And things that I thought were kind of special, that kind of outside of the minutes and agendas.
Okay, can we get a motion on this?
I move to approve the 2015 annual report by the Commission President.
Second?
I second that motion.
And any other commissioner comment? Any public comment on item 6, the annual report? take a vote. Commissioner Yu?
Yes.
Commissioner Savant?
Yes.
Aye. Commissioner Rowe vote yes. Commissioner Paris?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Judonic?
Yes.
The vote is unanimous to approve. So at that point, I think you can fill in the date of today's approval on it and post it on the website. We'll put a copy in the public
Yeah,
record as
I
well.
think also it needs to be sent to the board, mayor. I think that's something, I'm not
That's
sure
right.
if you can do that, I guess.
I can do that, yeah. So just send it to me once the final date has been filled in, thanks. Item 7, items for future agendas. I heard earlier
SB 450.
SB 450. And I know at the last meeting, a couple of the commissioners requested some general discussion about internet voting at some point. I don't know whether we'll do that next month or the following month, but it seems like there's some general interest in discussing that. I assume that remains. And I probably will be checking in. We want to make sure that the department gets through this election before we start getting into the details of the open source voting, but I do want to make sure that we get some discussion about that. So I'll check in with timing on that. My guess is that'll probably wait until next year, but only because I want to make sure that the department does all the things they need to do to certify and get through this election first.
A question, I'm looking at the calendar here and the December meeting is on the 21st. Do you know if we're gonna be having that meeting?
Typically, we do have our meeting in December. That may be closer to Christmas than we normally have it. I don't know, are there some requests? Is that problematic for anyone? I haven't heard from anybody that they're going to miss it.
It's fine with me, I just checking.
I think it's best if we can to just leave it on calendar. It's easiest for the public and for all of us. So let's plan on doing that. If anybody has vacation plans where they need to be out, just notify me as soon as you can. It's not a problem unless we're lacking a quorum, which I don't think is going to occur. So I'll plan on having that meeting. Any other discussion items for future agendas from the commissioners and from the public?
Oh, my, Jerry. One topic that I don't think has been discussed here at the commission in the last few months that is maybe of interest is the progress, any progress that's been made on renewing the contract for the current voting system. I don't know if that should be a separate item or if that's something that the director might cover in his director's report. But as we're getting close to the end of the year, it might be nice to hear about that.
Thank you. Okay, so that's it for item 7. I did want to ask Commissioner Savant what the status is of reviewing the secretary applications.
I have a couple, as I said, I had talked to a couple of the people and they had already taken other positions. So I still have 2 people that are on my list, and I have tried to get in touch with HR to get some more, because the 2 that are left they're okay, they're just not as experienced as I'd hoped.
One of the things we might want to do, because it has been quite a long time since people applied, and we may be sort of in a situation where it's better to reopen the process to people who, may not have. So if you could quickly contact those 2 folks and let me know if it's your opinion that we should reopen that, HR can post it, we could start the process over. I know it's not ideal, but I'd rather get somebody in a position who's going to stay and be devoted to helping us out here, because it's a bit of a struggle to get through the clerical parts of this. Okay, thank you very much for that, and please do just let me know as soon as possible. We'll start over if that makes sense. The meeting is now adjourned. It is 6:49 p.m. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Carey.